Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. We're on. Hope everybody had a nice Easter. It was a lot better weather, that's for sure. So, day after Easter, April 2nd. Roll call, if we could, please, Mrs. Lavoy.
Glenn Shibley,
I'm here.
Greg Labasanier,
Yep.
Kerry McGee, Karen Carlson, Deb Bacon, Graham Waters.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Spearman, good evening. If you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if we could just remain standing, bow our head, and dear Lord, we ask for your guidance tonight and your blessings for all of our residents in Coventry and our families. If there's family members or residents not healthy, please help them get back to good health. And this we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
An emergency evacuation plan, sir? Thank you, Mr. Spearman, and so far, we're 3 out of 4, aren't we? Those crazy Red Sox that lost that first game? They didn't lose today, did they? Oh, okay, good. So 3 out of 4 then. All right. All right, so we're covered number 1 on A. Number 2, approval of the town council minutes for the 20th, in that Mr. Greg Labasanier was not present, and we only have 2 other voting members. I think we're going to have to hold off on the vote unless there's any general comments at this point on the minutes? Nope?
No,
Okay.
just go right by it.
Okay, so we'll, Mrs. Lavoy, if we could kick them to the next meeting, and we'll probably have a couple, of which the 26th, Mr. L. and myself will be recusing ourselves on that one. All right, so, Mr. Waters, that brings us up to A3. We have fiscal year 2018, 2019, review of the municipal and school operating and capital budgets before us tonight. And thank you all the directors that have come tonight. And I know we have scheduled, I think, the next 4 Mondays to get through this as we head into May. And I know, Mr. Waters, you had put a tentative schedule out as guidance for the council and the directors, possibility of order. And I'm okay with the order that you have. I know that, again, we have a schedule for the 2nd, the 9th, the 16th, the 26th, and on May 7th, final discussion and adoption. So, without further ado then, why don't we, Mr. Tebow, you're ready. Laura, your assistant next to him and ready to go, and we'll start with town council, I believe. Is that the first one? 110?
It is. The schedule pretty much goes in the order of your budget books.
Right, which is a good thing.
I don't know if, Mr. Tebow, do you want to review the budget and the revenue and expense tab for the council?
Yes,
Okay.
if you would be so
Do you want to
kind.
re-review the presentation that was given a couple weeks ago?
If you'd like, the tab that's before the town council 110 and the budget book is revenue and expense. I don't know if you just want to go over that or if you just want to reread the presentation or.
Well, President Shibley, what do you and the council want to do?
I'm okay with going by department by department. I mean, unless you want to give us an overall overview, that's okay too.
All right, well, we did that last time, so if you want to jump right into the individual department
I think
budgets
so.
or whatever you want to do.
I think that's satisfactory to me, because we did have the overall before, and I don't think anything major has changed.
No, sir.
Okay, so why don't we just go one at a time? And the first one we have is the town council. And we have that before us, a grand total of projected expenses. We have, what, 25,810, is that it, for fiscal year 18? Am I reading it right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, it's pretty standard over the years. Has anything changed on this?
It's identical to the fiscal 18 approved budget.
Right. All right.
I have no questions.
Actually, it's down, fiscal year 18 approved was
if-
what, 26.3?
Yes, sir.
And
The projected expenses are 25,810.
I see. But we also have 26.398 for fiscal year 19.
Correct.
Okay, all right, so it's the same. Yes.
Can you just explain in here, we have professional services, travel, could you explain what those are?
I'm not,
Or who do I direct that to?
the professional services, I'm not sure.
Professional services would cover professional services such as legal, accounting, et cetera, those types of services. I couldn't tell you, looks like the last major expense for this category was in FY '17. And then for travel, if there's any conferences or meetings that the council needs to attend that requires payment, we would disperse. If there's a League of Cities or something to that effect, the Rhode Island League of Cities is free to the town, but if there's some other interest that the council or council members would like to participate in, we budget $500 there.
So
Okay.
that money's allocated, but if it's not spent, it's not spent.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we have expenses, council president, 500, what did we spend 500 on?
Bob, you want to take this one?
It is a stipend that is paid to the council president annually.
Okay. So it's, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's for all the extra meetings that I'm required to go to. Right. Okay, so I guess without further ado, if there's any other, there are no other questions, we'll move on to the next one on the list is the town hall, town manager, 210, town clerk, 310, and Citizens Advisory Committee, 211. So we've got them right in order, like you said. 210 next. And, let's see. Approved for FY '18 was 211, 209, and
There-
recommended by the town manager 210 this year?
Correct. No major changes. The cuts are in line with the other recommended cuts that were given to the department heads
Department heads.
to bring the budget down to an appropriate level.
So slight reduction, but otherwise, everything is basically the same.
Correct.
Okay? Any questions on that?
Just one question, temporary employee,
Temporary employees,
second line.
3,000.
Yes, that was budgeted last year for a town manager intern.
Okay.
I didn't get around to hiring one, but kept the line item in case we could use one in the future. I know
Just in
the
case.
previous town manager had a intern, and it could be useful.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, okay, we're past 2:10. Next one, we have 3:10, Town Clerk.
Mr. President, do you want to go in order? We'll take 211 next.
Oh, I see, okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes, Citizens Advisory Group, nothing there.
Citizens
211, you're
Advisory.
right, I just kind of following the list here. You're right, 211 comes before 3:10. All right, 211.
Mr. President, there's no major changes there.
Okay.
The Citizens Advisory Clerk is budgeted for a clerk to take minutes during the meeting. And then any FICA and Medicare costs associated with that position.
All right, so it's staying the same from what was approved in FY18.
Correct.
It's recommended by FY19 Town Manager 1077. All righty. Any questions on that? If not, we will go to the next one.
Next one is
clerk.
Information Services. Oh, sorry.
Follow it along in your book, it's over here.
Oh,
They put
all
Town
right.
Clerk 310 up there. instead
Oh,
of
I
back-
got you.
instead of
That's what's
back here.
throwing me.
Yeah.
Town clerk usually goes to town manager. All
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
let's
they
go
follow.
IT. Sorry, Mr. Warzika. 225, 250. 225 and 250. What do we have regarding this? Any comments? I know what was approved is 333, 892, and 2018. Now recommended 2019 by the town manager. It's slightly more, 346, 213. And the reason being?
Part of the increase is we're bringing Cody up. We're giving him a lot more responsibility. We're actually moving that second position to a systems admin position, which is still way below the salary of a system admin, but we're moving that up to take on the additional responsibilities that he's been handling over the last year and a half.
And we'll see the other half of that in the
So
library.
that's in the
On the library.
as well. And then I've also got a little bit of an increase in the 21,500 line, which is my general IT budget. Most of those are being caused by increases in the maintenance fees of all of the different applications that we have. So that's where that little bit is coming from.
That's the extra 7,000.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Any comments, questions?
I have
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When I was going through the rest of the budget book, I noticed that the other departments, town clerk has security, microfilming, 750 emergency management has radio and communications equipment, 830 has roads, bridges, the GPS tracking services, 850 building maintenance has security monitoring and security measures, 910 Parks and Rec has security monitoring, and again, 930 the library security monitoring. I was just wondering, why doesn't that fall under the IT department? It just seems to me, why, I was just,
Bob, do you want to?
Most of the security monitoring lines are for Sonatrol. That's for the alarms and so forth.
Okay.
So not really sure if that would fall under the purview of IT, but
We break it out by department to track it usually with the facility. If it's, say, Sonatrol for the Parks and Rec building, we know that gets charged to them.
Accountability of charges for the
Correct.
divisions, right?
Yep, so we could, it just makes it easier for budget and reporting purposes. You could consolidate all the charges into one account, but it makes it harder to track
You
by.
still have to divide it
I
up
think
to find out.
it comes under the physical security of the building as opposed to the computer or software security.
okay, and how about the GPS tracking service?
Yeah, the IT doesn't have.
It's-
Kevin had set that up. It wasn't involving the IT
Yeah.
department, and that's why it's
Yeah.
sitting in his budget. But that would be moved in, that's up to the manager.
Sure,
to
I mean,
decide.
it's,
Because I know last year we had that discussion, and I was just wondering, was that contract ever renegotiated?
as far as,
The GPS
GPS?
tracking service?
no, it hasn't been.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Any other questions of IT? Is that 225 and 250 now?
No, just
No,
325.
the, 250 is HR.
Oh, okay. Oh, I got you.
Which one?
Oh, ITHR, 250. Mr. Tebow, what do we got on this?
That's human resources, sir. I believe
Right.
Ms. Wilcox is here.
Okay, approved, that's 85. Recommended 110.
We-
Mr. Waters?
We took away the temporary employees.
Yeah,
As you saw in the budget presentation at the last meeting, we added a part-time HR person to assist Cheryl. And then the other cuts are to assist with the overall reduction. Does that about sum it up?
any other comments, Mrs. Wilcox? Okay. Any council questions? Okay, thank you. All right, so that's the 250. Now we're back to 310. Town clerk. My math is accurate. We got 310, town clerk. What's new with this one? As far as I know approved budget was 327, 2018, and the recommended 334, about $7,000 more.
The advertising
health?
expenses
Okay.
are kept at 30,000. We are reducing the codification of ordinances from 10,000 to 6,500. This really depends on council action. If council is more active in a particular year,
Right.
then the codification costs are what take the legislation and codify it into our ordinances. So it really depends. And then security of microfilming, there's an increase there to help with the microfilming and storage of records.
Okay. So the advertising budget line recommended by the town manager is 32.9? Is that what I'm reading?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
And that, again, that fluctuates, that
Right,
covers the ads for ordinances,
if, in case you need it,
committees, boards, commission
Right.
positions, et cetera.
okay? And we had, what, 35,000 approved in last year's budget?
Correct.
Okay. And
Bob, you have
pre-audit was
anything you want to add?
36.5 spent, huh, in 2017 pre-audit?
Nothing to add.
Nope.
No, sir.
Okay. All righty. So that's 310. Any other questions? If not, we'll go to the next one, Board of Canvassers, 320. Election year coming up?
Yep, I don't know if, I think that's about the major difference, right? Just the election?
Yes.
Approved budget 84. So that goes from 84, which was approved in last year, up to 136 is recommended. 138 was requested, 136.7. Is that right, Mr. Waters?
Yes.
Okay. And hopefully that'll, adjusted budget in 2017 was, I see, 141.
Correct.
So even more was spent that year. Hopefully 136.7 will do it for this year. Anything else, Mr. Tebow, on that one?
Oh.
I have nothing to add.
Okay. Any questions regarding this one?
I just have a quick
Yes.
question. How many temporary employees are needed? Because we have the figure 61,532. How many do we need? And
Is Lorraine?
Not too sure. I know there's, the state mandates the number of sites that we have.
And the number of poll workers per station as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe there's 15 stations, if I'm not mistaken.
There could be as many as 20.
Okay. We can get that information and get back to you.
Okay, and
Lori's not here tonight, right?
And do we know that the rental, equipment rental, we have rental for polls, what's the equipment rental? That's 3,000?
If the FTM is held in the gymnasium at the high school, we need to rent a stage, chairs.
Okay.
Don't know if we'd rent a sound system this year or not, but
Well, the 3,000 is only a portion of what it would actually cost.
Yeah.
If we hold it in the gym. The gym cost, when we do that, the chairs alone are over $3,000. That's about a $7,000 to $10,000 cost in the gym if we've got to go full bore. And then we usually end up paying half of refinishing the gym floor because we've damaged the floor during it, and that's another $1,500 to $2,000 that we will have to pay. So, even though there's money in there, it's only
15,000 or 1,500?
1,500.
Okay.
1,500. No, not 1,000.
Okay, so I mean, is this appropriate that we have this, or does it need to be?
No, it is. It's, because we don't know until,
Well, I'm saying if it goes to the, you're saying it's going to be more than $3,000 to have the FTM.
the pieces of it come out of my budget, pieces of, if need be.
If need-
It comes out of the general operating budget, the 950. So we spread that cost around, so it's not, the sound system cost, that would come out of my budget. The chairs will come out of her budget. The stage, we take that out of, so we break it up so it's not killing any one department. And again, in the event that we have it, we've been lucky the last couple of years, we haven't had to have it, and so we haven't, so to put in $10,000 or $12,000 in there, not need it, it's sitting there, this way we can absorb that little bit if we have to by spreading the hurt around to different departments. So we do cover, because she's got nothing extra in hers to cover any piece of it.
Okay. And how about the office supplies? We went from 2,000 to 3,000. Do we know why?
Most likely it's to cover the cost of paper for the increase in mailings,
Because she does have,
poll books,
whole book.
okay,
ballots.
is that what it is? So that's not the advertising? That wouldn't go under advertising?
The note we have in the book is increased to order paper for poll books, special paper as well for e-books.
Okay.
Okey-doke. All right, if not, any other questions, then we'll move on to 410. The-
Also, the increase in the $1,000 was over the 2,000 of a non-election year. But 2 years prior to that, it's actually lower than that from what you've got here from 2 years ago in the election year, in that office supply area.
For FY
Yeah,
'17?
FY '17, you had 3,700 approved for the, just
Was
on
that-
the budget there, and then, and now we're at 3,000. So, and then we actually, looks like we actually spent like 3,600, and we still only appropriated 3,000 this time around. Question on the meals. We didn't put anything for meals. Is there an additional stipend for the poll workers? Is that what,
I believe in years past, we would budget for meals.
Right,
We've
well-
taken that out with the expectation that they would buy the meals on their own. Oftentimes, poll workers will join together and sort of do a potluck at each polling place.
It's the first time I've ever heard that one. But like I said, whereas we had, the budget had been adjusted to 3,000 before, we got zero for it, but I'm asking, have we adjusted the stipends to include that, or no?
I don't recall. Did we adjust?
Ms. Anderson told me that the stipend was adjusted up slightly, but not to the cost to equally offset the, what was the meal expense. I believe, and I don't know the exact number, I think the stipend might have been $8 a person. I'll have to check with Ms. Anderson and,
We can look into that and get back to
Okay,
you.
all right.
But there was an increase in the stipend from my understanding, but it wasn't the full meal amount, so to speak. But we'll get the information for you.
Okay.
Okay, well, see where, again, the grand total, 136,783 is about 5,000 less than what was approved in 2017. Again, maybe due to a presidential election, I don't know. So next, we have the town solicitor. As we mentioned before, 410 is the number. And the budget, let's see. I see approved 2017 was 416. Town manager recommended 455. And projected cost 440 for 2018. Mr. Waters and Mr. Tebow, or projected costs as to just how it's tracking?
Well, the budget was increased to reflect recent actuals.
Yeah, okay. And the actual 2017 was what? 416.5. The FY18 adjusted is 440. So we're increasing slightly. It says, what, about 15,000?
Yes.
Is that it? Okay. Costs going up. Court cases are probably piling up, and the grand percentage is 3.1% recommended. The cost of doing business with the,
I'd say
Legal,
it's, we have solicitors covering planning, zoning,
right,
Board of Assessors,
somewhat more.
our Labor Council.
Right.
We're also coming up on contract negotiations for the IBPO, which will carry into next
Yeah.
fiscal year,
Right,
possibly, hopefully not, but, and then any other legal matters. Also, any zoning matters that are outside zoning and enforcement, building and enforcement, minimum housing, things like that. I'd say that's more active than in previous
Okay.
years.
all righty. Any questions on the budget for town solicitor? And if not, we have, the next one is municipal court, 420. Followed by probate court, 510, so,
Mr. Tebow will take this one.
okay. Mr. Tebow, 420.
So the FY19 manager's recommended budget is an increase of $1,240 from the fiscal 18 approved budget, primarily due to an increase in the assistant clerk of the court getting an increase.
All right, so let's see, spent in 2017 was 43, and pre-audit, what do we have? No,
42,000.
42. All right, and you say this is due to a raise of one?
Correct. If you recall, Mr. President,
Right.
the last budget, the council gave the assistant clerk to the court a pay increase,
Okay,
and this
That's what it
reflects
is.
cost with
because
that.
I don't think it had been done in a while, right?
Correct.
As I recall?
Yep.
4 or 5 years, all right, all right. All right, that's understandable then. So, after municipal court, we have probate is 510. Are you on that one, Mr. Tebow, on the probate one?
Yes, sir, no change. The manager's recommended 19 budget is the same as the approved 18 budget.
17,972 is approved for 2018, and this is for 2019, so zero increase. Okay. All right. Questions on that one? If not, we go to Finance Department. 610, I guess, is the first number, right? 610. And slightly increased, let's see, recommended 393,900, almost 394.
The major increase here is the budget for the
Sewer administrator /
Thank you.
financial analyst.
That's it?
That would,
Okay.
50% of the salary and fringe
Yep.
is in Department 610. The other half would be in Department 880.
All right. Okay, so this is covering the 610 amount. All right, and I'd say sorely needed, and let's hope it helps. Any questions on the finance department, budget total amount? Yes?
I
Mrs.
do.
Bacon.
We have travel expense. Town manager recommended 0. Department head requested 1,600.
Okay,
The manager had instructed the department heads to seek out professional development, whether that be locally or through regional travel. And myself and Lori had not had the opportunity to take advantage of that this year, when the manager had indicated that all the departments needed to make additional cuts to get to the 4% cap on the levy. I made the decision to remove $1,600 to meet the manager's requirement that we reduce our budgets to get to the cap.
Okay. And how about dues and memberships? Those fees went up this year?
Lori and I were members of the Rhode Island GFOA, we still are, and we now have membership in the National GFOA, so it's two different memberships.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
any questions? No? Nope. Okey dokey. Next is the, what, tax assessor 620. 620 now. That recommended 196. Approved 173 in 2017. So the additional costs would be what on the amount?
There's been a lot of transition in the tax assessor's office over the past year.
Right.
And the model we're going with on a go-forward basis will be to have a full-time assessor, have a part-time appraiser. Currently, we have a full-time assessor, we have a part-time appraiser, basically two part-time appraisers, Ray Beatty and Dave Jervis.
Right.
Both are going to be leaving the employment of the town as of 6/30. They're both retired, they came back to assist us, and they're going to, in essence, retire again. So we're going to transition over to the model where we have a full-time assessor, and we have a part-time appraiser who will work 20 to 25 hours a week.
Will a part-time position cover what we need in that assessor's office? I understand that they're having difficulties getting the, getting the tax assessments out there, and therefore, if we're not assessing people on a timely basis, means we're probably not collecting the revenue on a timely basis either.
I've had several conversations with Ms. Bizier, and she indicated to me that this is the model they can work with on a go-forward basis.
Okay,
The
all right.
the thing is, like, Ray and Dave, they come in a couple days a week, and it's not always on a consistent basis. What Tasha needs is to have somebody in the seat 5 days a week for 4 or 5 hours a day, and she feels that that will allow the assessor's office to do everything they need to do.
And how many hours a week would that be, roughly 15, 20? That person in the seat, the assessor, or the
The appraiser?
appraiser?
20 to 25 hours a
Okay,
week.
all right. So, that's more than it is now, or at least it's more consistent.
More consistent
That's
and
what's
more
important.
hours.
So that, in theory, the town wouldn't be losing money because we don't have a full-time appraiser. Is that,
Well, we've never had a full-time appraiser,
we
but
haven't.
because of all the transition that's going on in the office,
all right,
and, we need to be out on the road more.
right. Okay,
And Tasha's committed to doing that. She's been on the road a lot, but at the same time, we need someone back in the office to be doing a lot of input.
okay, so, and you've spoken with her, and Mr. Waters, you have, and it's up, overall, it's 9% increase anyhow. So let's hope it does the job. We will see. Mrs. Bacon, anything else on that?
Yep, professional services, department head was requesting 4,000, town manager is recommending 0. What was the professional services?
The professional service was, in the past, I'm going back to like 2012, as an example, we had an issue with assessments on 4 or 5 major commercial buildings, hotels, nursing homes, and those weren't ultimately settled until within the past year or two. And we've had to take, with council approval, we've had to take abatements on some of the assessments. So the idea is, on a go-forward basis, to budget funds. In the event that we have an issue with a commercial property, they come forward with an appeal, to have money put aside to go out and to pay a third-party appraiser to go out and perform that function. So in the event, on a go-forward basis, if it's not in this budget, it's something that might be eligible for, say, a contingency expense out of the contingency budget.
Okay,
It was just good planning to do that, but, we would source the money from another fund like contingency.
okay.
It was it fell victim to the reduction that the manager had put out to all the departments.
And we're hoping that it's not needed.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And how about the travel expense, 1,400? That actually increased from the FY18 approved budget?
Yeah, Ms. Vizier's in the process of getting certifications,
Okay,
so I believe that she'll have continuing education, CPE credits, but I think that's to gain the last 1 or 2 certifications that she would like to get.
okay. Thank you.
And 1,200 was approved in 2018, right? This is 1,400?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All righty. Any questions? Mr. L, no? All right, so tax collector. Next, we have the Board of Assessment.
You got tax collector. That was, you were just on the tax assessor, now you're going to the tax
Got
collector.
it. All right, tax collector, 630, sorry. Tax collector. Yes, that's important.
I'll defer to Mr. Tebow again.
Okay, Mr. Tebow, the recommended amount I see where is 252.
The increase here is primarily for personnel. Salary increase is contractual, and part of the manager's recommended increase for administrative employees. You'll also see we have an increase in temporary employees of $2,380 from the previous year. We anticipate losing one of our employees on a temporary basis for medical reasons, so that money is put in there to cover the cost of bringing in the temporary employee we have been bringing in all along during collections anyway.
Okay, and roughly what, 2,300 or something?
Yes, sir.
2,400, okay. In case we need it. Obviously, if it's not spent, it's not spent.
Yes, sir.
I got it. All right, any questions on 630? If not, we'll move along to 640 then. Board of Assessment Review. And 0 increase. And town manager total is 3,200, is that right?
Correct.
We spent 4,300 in 2017. So this is, what, about a 25% reduction of what we spent. Is that correct? Am I reading that right?
Correct.
Okay.
And we're projecting for FY18 3230,
Mm-hmm. Right.
so approximately the same.
Yeah, it is. Okay. No increase. All right. Planning and zoning. Is that right? Next is 9:40?
So that's all I had recommended for scheduling, if you all want to continue on.
Well, Mr. Waters, planning and zoning is the last item on your recommended list.
Planning and zoning is the one we haven't hit.
Yeah.
9:40?
It is?
Yeah, on
Yeah, we got,
April 2nd.
yeah,
I wonder if I-
yeah.
I
planning
mean,
and
that's on the guideline.
Okay.
You also have planning zoning. I see was that a ditto? Is on the 9th too.
That might have been.
Did you sneeze?
Yeah, I might have sneezed, yes.
All right, well, I mean,
It's,
what's the council's pleasure? I mean,
Let's roll.
Mrs.
the
Hey,
department
let's
head is
roll.
here and
Is here,
prepared.
yeah.
Here,
This is why I
let's-
have
yeah.
them all here, and
Yeah.
Let's roll through.
Well, if we can get through one more,
All right,
I
let's do
think
the-
we should.
Yeah, let's do the planning and zoning.
9:40.
for planning and zoning, it's 9:40 through 9:46. That's because it includes the planning commission, the zoning board, the conservation commission, the land trust, economic development commission, historic commission, and that's it. Obviously, the largest department is the planning department out of those.
Right.
The others should probably go pretty quickly, I'd imagine.
Planning. Let's start at 9:40. How does this look as far as what we had last year, or what we're asking for this year? Ooh, it's gone up a little bit, huh?
Yeah, you want to jump back to FY '17
Right.
because it was fully staffed then.
Okay.
So we're actually missing or down in a planner in our department. And
I
so
see.
in order to deal with that workload, I'm proposing a reorganization where 2 of my staff members move up and take on some of the additional responsibilities of the position that is no longer being hired, funded. So it would move the associate planner to assistant planner, or I'm calling it principal planner, zoning administrator. And then a clerk level position would move up to an admin position and essentially become a lower level planner.
Okay, in 2017, I see where 383,000 was spent. That was what, full staff?
Yes.
2017. Adjusted went to 373. So this is still about 30,000 less than that.
Correct.
Fiscal year 18 is what? 289. That was approved, 289. And again, that was not full staff.
So if you recall, for FY17, we've
Yeah.
budgeted for planner, assistant planner, and associate planner. In
Right,
FY18,
which didn't
the assistant planner position was cut.
Right.
And now we're reclassifying a number of the employees, modifying their job duties to help handle the workload, and that's the changes.
Okay, reclassification, does that mean more individuals or not?
No.
No.
More work for the individuals.
More work for the individuals, so
So subsequently
some
more
comes,
pay
so
too.
comes the money. And obviously, the individuals, you as a director, are confident and that they're competent and.
Oh, I'm 100%
all right.
confident in them,
So they have just been, same 2 people, just underpaid, and now they're gonna do more.
yeah. And
More work.
overworked, yes.
Okay. All right, I understand that. And it's, I suppose, better than having to hire another full-time employee. Questions of my counterparts here? Mrs. Bacon or Mr. Lebasinier on this amount?
I just have a quick question. Professional
Probably
services,
the same one, yeah.
oh, okay.
Go ahead.
That's a big drop. That's probably where the additional help was coming from, professional services, I would think.
No. So this was, in the previous year, we had 30,000 budgeted for the comp plan. We had to take 10,000 of that to pay for the expenditures that we had resulting from all of the advertising and stenography that we didn't have.
Yeah.
So we took 10,000 and now we're able to pay the stenographers, but we had to kind of reprogram that 10,000 for the comp plan consultants. So that's what professional services is.
Can I add something, Ms. Wells?
Yes.
The comp plan was not going to be completed by 6:30, so the the company doing that comp plan was not going to be paid $30,000 by the end of fiscal 18. So realizing that, and I consulted with Ms. Wells, she took $10,000 approximately with the manager's approval and covered some other expenses. So the $11,000 that she's bringing forward in that line item this year is to pay for the rest of the comp plan, the word, preparing the comp plan?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Other questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Advertising?
Right. This is also a change. So what had been happening is that we had separate budgets for the planning department, the planning commission, and the zoning board. And so anytime we were out on one but had an ad going on, we had to do a budget transfer. So the idea is to take the same amount of money and put it all in the planning department so that as ads come in, we don't have to do the budget transfers. And we can just write in the memo what it's being billed for.
Oh, all right.
So better accountability, or at least that's the idea, right?
Well, yeah, and
Tracking.
streamlining it, so we don't have to keep doing transfers.
Right. Okay.
And your printing went up a little?
Only because of the comp plan.
Okay.
I expect us to have drafts for you, for the planning commission, for other relevant boards and commissions. I think as far as the public, we'll have a public display copy, but we're not planning on doing mass mailings of any kind. It's
Okay.
pretty much internal.
And dues and memberships? They went up.
They did go up because I'm AICP. So I pay for an APA membership, American Planning Association, but AICP is a certification that you have to earn. And unfortunately, with those certifications comes an additional fee. Hopefully it won't be this amount, though, because Brian in my office, who's also a Planning Association member, is now a student, so he's getting the student rate. So hopefully it'll not quite be that much.
Okay. And office equipment?
Should be about the same.
Yep, it's the same,
That's it.
sorry.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. All right.
My question is, in going to the advertising, why is it in other areas where breaking out the expenses that were going to the different departments, but now all of a sudden we're consolidating, so we don't know how much is in zoning, we don't know how much is in any of those?
Well, we
We've
should be
done
able-
completely reversed here what we've seemed to be doing everywhere else.
Right, well, because we do so many advertisements, and also we're kind of in the mode where we're doing a lot of zoning ordinance amendments. I also have the comprehensive plan, which I'll be advertising. So we're anticipating in the next year that we're gonna be heavily advertising. But, as I had said before, in our case, we have, 3 buckets of funds, but we can't really predict, when a wind turbine is gonna come or when a gun range is going to come, and that cleans us out of one pot or the other. So we're constantly doing budget transfers between accounts just to cover our required advertising.
But at least it shows the area that it's actually coming
Well,
from.
but we have to be pretty particular about citing where it is. Now, when we do a purchase order or invoice, we put on what the actual planning, zoning, what it is. So you should be able to go back and run a report just like anything else to see the expenditure.
Yeah, by looking at, but by looking at when it comes presented to us, it just looks like it's all in one department and not necessarily broken out. I know that, like I said, it's
That's
just
correct.
contrary to what we've just done a little
Yeah.
while ago where we split it out to show where it was coming from, and now we're putting it all in one. So,
Well,
it's the
I don't necessarily
accountant in
subscribe
me.
to that.
And the next planning director, however many years down the road that may be, that might change. Or the next town manager,
Right.
or finance director.
Six of one, half a dozen of the other. It adds up to the same cost. It's just, you'll be earmarking it as to where it's going.
Yes.
And we'll have it in case we need it. I guess, again, if we don't need it, it doesn't get spent.
Right.
Okay, I understand that. Anybody else? Any other questions on planning now?
Everything's good.
Okay, so the next one, we have the Planning Commission, that 941. And actually, this is going down, recommended 15.3 from 17.3 requested. Basically, professional services, I see where it goes down $3,000. Is that it, Mr. Tebow? That's the drop on this one?
2,000 from the FY '18 approved budget.
Oh, from the approved, yeah, you're right, that's 5. I saw this 6 projected costs, you're right.
Again, does
So
it just
from
mean that those
approved-
professional services are somewhere else as opposed to in this?
Yeah, they're most likely in stenography.
Okay. Anything else on this one? All right. All right, so the next one is what? 942. Zoning boards. That's gone up a little bit, percentage-wise, right?
It has.
And that's
see.
because, what? More costs
Well-
attributed to it.
Yeah, what we did here is we also budgeted $5,000 for stenography, but as you may remember, I
Right.
do have a zoning ordinance amendment proposal to have applicants pay that fee. So that may, if it passes,
Is
we
your
may be okay on that,
$2,000,
but if
yeah,
it doesn't,
from
I
the
have the
previous
budgeted
department.
funds.
But notes I have are the zoning board of review, there's an increase in regular employees for a minute taker and decrease in secretarial services.
If the person taking the minutes is a town employee, we charge it to regular employees. If it's not a town employee, if it's a contractual employee, like off the street, then it's like secretarial services.
Goes into the professional services. Okay.
Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. All righty. Next, we have the 943 Conservation Commission. That's down, what, almost
The-
20%.
Only change there is the movement of the advertising expenses.
Okay. And that we've heard about. All right, Land Trust, 944.
Right, so the difference there should be the professional services, trying to see if I can see anything else. Essentially, the land trust needs some professional expertise. If they want to pursue grants, if they want to understand which land to buy, if they want to prioritize an acquisition list,
Carolyn, can
need
you speak
more
into the
information.
microphone?
Yeah.
They need more information. So it's for biologists, it's for appraisers, or whatever services they might need.
Oh, so that's the professional services,
Yes.
5,000.
45.
Okay. And you say that's pursuing grants and everything else,
Right.
having the time and knowledge to do it. Okay.
I just
Yes,
have
Mrs. Bacon?
one quick question.
Sure.
What are non-book materials?
That's a funny classification, but what it really is sort of entrance fees to like the Land Trust Summit, the Land and Water Summit that's held every year. I guess it's not really travel, so where else to put it? It's just the sort of background expenses that come with being on a board that we can help pay for.
Okay, my question is, okay, we budgeted and appropriated $3,500 in the last year, but we didn't spend any. So
Right.
why are we appropriating the same amount when we haven't spent a dime, and that this time around?
It's a good question. I think there's been some lack of
I think
understanding.
so.
Well, there's staff changes, so every time staff comes in, they kind of have to understand how the land trust works. I don't think there was a good understanding of who can pay for an appraiser, how things are actually done. So I think we're just now understanding that, so it will likely be expended by the end of the fiscal year. But I think we're just now, like literally in the last month, getting a good grasp on who can spend the money. Is it the land trust, is it the council, who pays for our professional services for this work?
So you said that this money's going to be spent before the end of
I
fiscal.
hope.
That fiscal or this fiscal?
This fiscal. and
Because it's not, well, it hasn't been projected, that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, no, it should be, though. It should be. I don't know. I mean, we hope.
The projected expense column is something that Bob trends out based on year-to-date expenses and,
And what he expects to spend. That's
Correct, yeah.
obviously, but that says zero, so that's why, I was curious as to, that, if it doesn't look like we're gonna spend any, just saying it's.
Well, I say it hopefully, I
Yeah.
can't assure you 100%, but, I mean, we have new
No,
staff
if we don't need
on
it, don't spend it. I'm not advocating to spend it if we didn't need it, but I'm just saying normally, if you didn't need it, we wouldn't be appropriating it.
Correct, but you have new members on the land trust, you have new staff heading the land trust,
Okay, so.
and an
yeah,
ill-defined
it's all right.
process.
So if there's some training that's
Right.
involved, understandable. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Tebow?
Yeah, I think the 3,500 from last year was for trail markings. I think the land trust wanted to mark some of the trails. So don't know if that's going to get done or not, but I believe that was the intent of those funds last year.
Oh, okay, all right, all right.
Okay, any other questions on that? If not, we have economic development, which is something I think we need, but it's $945 and it's budgeted as zero. Same as last year.
Next.
So much for economic development. All right, 946, I guess, gonna round this one off. Historic District Committee. And, I see it's a big reduction. Department request was 66 and 56 has been recommended. Any questions regarding this one? And we spent,
Well, yeah.
spent 2615 on, in 2017.
And just a description of the professional services for the Historic Commission.
Yeah,
Well, they
Again-
have another number of ideas of things they
Okay.
want to do, studies on potential preservation projects or sort of historic economic development projects. But it's just seeing what gets off the ground. And
Okay, again, well, I know, like I said, we appropriated 6,000 last year.
Last year.
Anything projected to spend this year?
possibly, yeah, because we have this, it was programmed actually for a Quidnick study. I don't know where we will get with that, but we have some other engineering and structural issues that we're looking at, so it could be spent, we hope.
okay.
Yeah, the funds were approved last year to do I think, an engineering study of the Quidnick Bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so, which may
Okay.
happen.
Well, we haven't done that study at all on that?
Not
On the
yet.
bridge?
No.
We haven't done it. It's not scheduled to get done at all?
Well, it was scheduled, it just got delayed by snow,
Oh, okay, all right, so it's ready to go then, other
Hopefully, yeah.
than snow?
hopefully.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
Regarding planning and zoning from 940 up to 946, so we were able to fit it in tonight and one less next week. More time for Public Works, Sewer, Parks and Rec,
got
Department of Health Services, and Library is what
Funds on the next
we
time-
have.
Next time around. Okay.
If you guys want to keep going, you're more than welcome to keep going. If you want to stop there, it's your meeting. We have another item on the agenda as well, so.
Well, we do have another item on the agenda. Does anybody want to take another one tonight that,
You're
Instead
also
of-
missing two council members who, I'm sure when they get back at the next meeting, they
Yeah.
might want to review all the.
Yeah,
I
that's, well,
think
that's
so,
that's
too.
the problem.
Yeah,
now.
'cause
The
we're
other
down
two folks
to-
might have other questions as
Yeah.
well, too, so.
yeah.
We can go pretty deep, but, if they're not here.
Yeah, I think it's probably wiser, just taking a pause and, hopefully we'll have, 5 council people here on the 9th.
I think we will next week.
And, this will be scheduled probably preceding or during the regular meeting, or this on the 9th.
Glenn,
That's-
hang on one second. I just want to ask Craig
Oh,
something.
sure.
Craig? Before you leave, I just had a question for you once we finished with this. I'm sorry, I just saw you getting up to leave. No. Sorry.
So after the meeting. Is that what you mean?
No, we're on here, school budget also, so I just had a question for you.
Oh, all right, yeah.
That's all.
All right.
Can I just ask?
Sure. I mean, yeah, why not? We can ask it before the 16th, sure.
I'll answer if I can. I don't have to.
It's real quick. You just, in your presentation last week, you talked about the Jacobs report.
Correct.
Can we get a copy of that?
So I sent that electronically to the committee. I sent it to the town manager. I actually made a copy for Ms. Carlson. I can give you hard copies if you want.
Oh, that
Because I had shared it with the council. We actually came and presented it when it came out back in the fall, I believe. So, but I can send you another copy or I can print it up.
A printed copy would be fantastic, thank you.
Okay.
And do you also have a priority list for each one of the schools? What needs to be done? I know.
So we haven't done that yet. I mean, I think that's a bigger conversation. I think that was asked at our last meeting. Somebody had indicated that we plan out that 60 million, and we have not received any money for capital. So my feeling is before we put effort in that, try to get a commitment from the community about where we go forward. So
Well-
what we've been doing is a priority list based on our 5-year capital that we submit, the budget that we've submitted. We submitted that last year, and again, that wasn't funded. So we're still waiting. The other part, too, is that in order to do construction, to get funding from the state, we need to do a feasibility study. And even though the Department of Ed spent millions of dollars on that Jacob report, right now, we cannot use that. So hopefully, the state treasurer is trying to work with the Department of Ed to change that, so we could actually use that report to help us prioritize. So there's a lot of
I just didn't know
steps.
each one, I mean, certain schools probably know what they need in there. I just didn't know if you had.
There's a lot. I mean, and we can go through, and one of the things that we'll be doing is hopefully getting the council and the community to tour our schools. So we have a lot of big needs that we have in our building. And I get criticized a lot. I think I've spoken that we have $800,000 at least worth of just ceiling tiles that have to be replaced. And I had mentioned at our, we had a school committee meeting the other night and saying, if you walked into a restaurant and you looked at a ceiling like this, most of us, I'll speak for myself, I would walk out, and yet it's okay for our children. So there's a lot of needs that we have, but we need to have a process that's going to be sustainable and that's realistic and that the community buys into. Because to say you have $60 million worth of repairs, I think when I said it the first time, somebody made a comment, I don't know if it was in the committee of the council, it was like, oh, here we go on a bond, and we're just stating the facts. This is what are, independent, third-party individuals came in and identified. So, I mean, to the point where even on our own conversations, going through the process, going through the motion, but expecting that nothing will be funded, we have to change that culture in this, I believe, in this
Right,
community, so.
But you also have to give us a list also.
But we
so-
have done that.
Okay, it's from each school, what
Well,
what needs to be done.
I mean, we make a priority, and we submitted that priority just in that capital. So that is prioritized, and that's over the next 5 years. And you already have that, you've seen that. So, we haven't gone down and prioritized the $60 million, no.
I mean, that would be wonderful if you could do that, so we could see
Well, I
exactly
think-
in each school, if
But-
we could see what needs to be done.
But I also think we have to come up with a process that's not just an exercise in futility, right? That we work together. We've talked about this, having a joint meeting with the town council and the school committee and talking about the condition. I mean, and you're doing the comprehensive plan, but look at the condition of our buildings. I was just talking about parks and recreation, the buildings that we have in this community are old, and I can only speak for the town side, the school department side, but we don't have the resources to even maintain them. Our people work really hard. But last year's budget, we've cut 10 to 12 maintenance and people and custodians over the last, 10 years. So I think we just need to get on the same page and then at some point figure out, where this community wants to go in terms of our building, just being realistic. So I don't disagree, but I think it's only going to happen by us getting together.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, as we started saying, I think we'll hold off to discuss other departments for next Monday night, the 9th. And as far as we know, it'll be set for 6 PM maybe? Is that what's on the planning board?
That's,
Our planning board?
It's up to you how you want to handle it.
Yeah.
If there's items for executive session, I don't know if you want to have executive session at 5 and then budget
Right.
discussion from 6 to 7 and then council meeting from 7 on. If there's no items for the executive session,
Right.
and you all want to try to hammer through more of the budget, you
Okay.
can do 5:30 to 7 budget. It's really up to you,
Okay,
your meetings.
so
We'll set that.
tomorrow we'll be working on the agenda then.
Sure.
Okay, we have another matter tonight then. I guess as far as the directors go, they're probably, if you say so, they're probably not going to be utilized outside of the next thing on the agenda was resolution.
Are you trying to get me to dismiss my directors?
No, I'm just saying, I don't want to.
That's interfering in town
They can watch our
operations,
last
you know.
resolution if you want. That's okay.
It's Civics 101. No. If my directors would like to go home, except for Mr. Robillard,
Well, the grass is growing
Uh,
outside.
the chief, he can stay, and
And Mr. McGee, right?
Mr. McGee
Okay.
and Mr. Tebow have to stay.
Right.
Could I request that Raina stay, possibly?
You can.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
The rest of the class is dismissed.
All right. So next, Mrs. Lavoy, we have B, a resolution for discussion and/or action. Mr. Waters, you want to, we'll introduce this one, or shall we read it?
So this is next item on the agenda is a resolution to allocate funds for the Department of Human Services, move to Oak Haven, and to prepare the building for occupancy. The resolution affirms the use of funds from, let's see, $194,229 from leftover from the 2015 Performance Energy Bond, $13,370 in human services impact fees, $23,982 remaining in capital money from the Town Hall Annex fire safety upgrades, and up to $30,000 from the remaining bond premium from the 2017 $5.1 million general obligation bond issue. So this resolution came about after a meeting with Human Services, Public Works, myself, Finance, and the chair of the building committee. We met to talk about the logistics and the financial issues of moving Human Services out of the building. It's been determined that they do have to move because of the need to cut off utilities during construction, as well as the asbestos abatement that will take place.
Right, right.
The facility that the group has identified that is most feasible to move Human Services to is the Oak Haven building. The Town Hall Annex was explored, also looked, that was too costly. It's going to cost more than $1 million just to bring it up to code for occupancy. And that was looked at when I wanted the town hall offices to move over there. We also looked at, I believe there's a leasing a site called Nino's, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Kevin? And then also Human Services approached the CCAP building and talked to CCAP about occupying space there. They didn't have any suitable space for Human Services and their program needs. Mr. Tebow, is there anything else I'm leaving off?
Our Lady of Chesahowa, OLC.
Correct, and the committee talked about that, and we thought it'd be better for the town to invest in a town facility than a private Catholic facility.
Right.
That there's no benefit to the taxpayers.
Okay. Mr. McGee, I know you've been a big part of this, getting the plan down and spending many hours with the parties that Mr. Waters mentioned to get this thing done, so we can continue forward. And I understand that by spending these funds, we'll have a improved facility which in the future, after Human Services and the police are into their new building, we can utilize and/or rent.
And I should further clarify, Mr. McGee has just been getting estimates
Right.
for what it would cost to get the Oak Haven facility ready for occupancy by Human Services. I don't know if you're able to collect everything, if you're still waiting for, okay. So this resolution does not set a budget.
Right.
It just identifies funding sources outside of the GO bond that was reserved for construction. There are other funding avenues, the general fund, et cetera, that can also be explored.
Okay, so, Mr. McGee, you have what, relocation budget estimate? We just was handed this now. You've been working on it for a while. 211 is a good ballpark guess?
Well, again, this is, let me back up a moment, Mr. President. Let's go back to the Oak Haven. I spoke to the priest at the Oak Haven Parish today. They're in negotiations for Cornerstone to be there. There's only 2 classrooms available at OLC, plus it's a
OLC.
handicap accessibility issue
Right.
for that building. So that's one of the other reasons why that was taken out of the.
Right, right.
We've been working for the last 2+ weeks trying to contact contractors based upon putting together a budget for the relocation. We have not been able to clarify the electrical work and also the life safety. It's so enhanced as far as what the prices are, and it was only till this past Thursday that we actually had this meeting that Mr. Waters talked about, that we finally decided that's going to be the place we're going to go to. So we
Right.
haven't had enough time.
Okay,
We are going to be, I'm meeting tomorrow with another electrician and also with another company for heating and air conditioning, along with Cintas. This number right here is, again, I think this is going to be an upwards number. We try not to have to come back to you at this. The page 2 shows you who some of the contractors are that we worked with. Page 3 has the layout of the north side of the Oak Haven building where the
Right.
Human Services would actually utilize, plus the meal site in the middle, and then the office space in the front. The gym would be utilized by Project Friends. And I provide copies of the quotes that we have in hand at this time. I am not sure that this is, I know for a fact this is not the final number. This number is going to be rising some with the electrician and the life safety portion of it, but also some of these numbers that we have here that we've already made an adjustment to the quote from the plumber, that we were going to be having to make the lavatories on the north hallway handicap accessible, but we have 2 handicap accessible bathrooms in the back where the handicap entrance will be. So we can leave that as non-ADA bathrooms. So that's going to reduce his price by half. So there are some savings, and we will continue to try to save wherever we can, but these are the rough numbers from the short time period we've been able to
Right.
to get the numbers together for.
and I know you've done all the measurements. This is ample space, has been.
I'll let Mr. Robelot speak about
yeah.
it, but we have met out there, and this 6,400 square feet is what they require, and this is just over that, so they could actually be more than they've got right now as far as usable space.
So for the year, temporary year?
Year to 18 months would be fine.
Right, right. Well, again, it's owned by us. When the money is spent, it'll be ours. And, it's something where instead of just renting a spot and not having anything to show for it afterwards, I think it's a good use of the building that's been sitting down there vacant since it was closed in my neighborhood. And now we're using it twofold, and when Human Services gets into the new facility, it could still continue to be twofold if we find the right tenant.
Correct. It'll be a marketable piece of property
marketable.
that people can move in that are up to code and have all the improvements that need to be done.
Yeah. And Mr. Tebow, I know you've been right involved in the thick of things here. These monies in the resolution would be identified if we need to use them. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
The
but
dollar amounts?
There would be stipulations on some of the funding sources.
Right.
For example, the $194,229,000 that
Yep.
remains from the 2015 Performance Energy Bond. I made a statement in the handout I gave you that per the language that's on the resolution that the council approved, which is 123, it's a typo, it should be 123-14-4443. Part of the, I'll read it right from the resolution, I have it here. Resolution of the Town of, it's 123-13-4443. Resolution of the Town of Coventry authorizing the town to finance air quality and energy efficiency improvements and other repairs and renovations to school buildings and other municipal buildings in the town.
Right.
So the bond was used for performance energy upgrades. So for example, if energy efficient thermostats are installed, improvements to the HVAC system where I don't think there's an HVAC system that exists in there.
It'll be the installation of
Yep.
one. Yeah.
Obviously, we'd go before bond council to determine what could and could not be used in that respect.
Yep.
Secondly, the $13,370 in human services impact fees. By ordinance, the impact fees that will be spent on, has to be spent on items that are part of the capital improvement plan. So that capital improvement plan that the manager presented as part of his recommended budget, that is the 5-year plan, currently does not call for any impact fees to be spent to support any upgrades at Oak Haven. So the item or items that would be purchased through impact fees would have to go to planning, planning would have to review it to make sure it's consistent with the comp plan, and then come back before you and added, or you'd have to modify the capital improvement plan, the 5-year plan. Additionally,
Can you bring up the 31,358? I failed to mention that in my resolution.
in preparing the document you have in front of you, I had noticed that on impact fees, there is a bucket of money titled Public Facilities. So as you all know, when an impact fee is paid, Parks and Rec, law enforcement, road improvement, and so on, all share that $70,596. There is a bucket, 3% of the $75,96 goes to public facilities, which by ordinance is defined as other public facilities.
Right.
So those funds of $31,358 would also be available with the same stipulation that it go
Right.
if the funds were to be used, it'd have to go before the planning commission to make a recommendation or in a decision that it's consistent with the comp plan, would have to come back before council for final approval. There's $23,982 remaining in capital money from the Town Hall Annex Fire Safety upgrades. With council approval, could be repurposed to support capital improvements at the Oak Haven building. And then there's $30,000 remaining bond premium from the 2017 $5.1 million general obligation bond issue. That's the bond premium that was also used to relocate the school physical plant and the bus yard. The amount is $30,000. There's a balance of approximately $34,000, $35,000. But Mr. McGee had indicated at the last meeting that a cement slab still has to be poured on site at a cost of, I think you said, Kevin, around $3,000-4,000. So a conservative number would be $30,000. So all told, the various funding sources I've mentioned, it's $292,939. But as I previously stated, some of those funds have restrictions.
Right.
When we met on Friday, I believe it was, myself, the manager, Mr. McGee, DHS, and the building committee, Mr. McGee had indicated that there was a decent amount of the expenses would be the HVAC installation and, what was the other one?
Electric and the life safety.
Life safety, yeah. So, I mean, while Things of a questionable nature, like installing a breaker box, I'd have to go back to bond council and say, is this an authorized expense? I'm gonna go ahead of time and just basically tell her what the game plan is through an email and say, this is what we're looking to do. Here's some examples of the work that will be done. I'll get the list from Kevin. And she can go through it and indicate what she feels would be appropriate to expense from the remaining performance energy bond and what will not be. So concurrently, we'll go to planning with these amounts that we talked about for the impact fees to have them make a recommendation on modifying the CIP and bring that before you as well. Just because of a timing issue, it hasn't gone there yet.
Right. Okay. Well, it's something we have to get done, and to accommodate the costs on the move to empty out Wood Street so that we can continue on and stay on the timeline and stay on have the funds to finish the police station and the human services station the way it was, designed and funded on the bond. This is a good plan, I think, because I know a couple months ago, where's the money going to come from? Where's the money going to come from?
A few weeks ago, too.
And I think with all the parties involved, put their thinking caps on, Mr. Waters, and again, I think it's a good plan. I know there's some stipulations, but we'll get through those stipulations.
Mr. President, I
Yes.
know Councilwoman Bacon called me earlier today.
Yep.
She had some questions.
Sure.
I don't know if you want to open the floor to her.
Open the floor. She doesn't have to open it. It's you have questions, go right ahead.
Yeah, I do. I just wanted to find out, Raina, did anyone approach you about possibly using the community room? You have a kitchen there, don't you?
Just mentioned like a couple hours before the council meeting. So it's a smaller kitchen.
Do you want to?
I don't know how many people we need to serve or the time frame or.
So I guess my question also is, did anyone even approach you? Has anyone approached
No.
you about possibly using a facility that, I mean, you do have a community room there, you do have a kitchen, and
We do. It is used throughout the day and throughout the year, especially during the summer. We have hundreds of children in summer camp that are there until at least 4:30 because we extended the hours. And then we have community groups. There's leagues that have all their meetings, especially throughout June and again for fall ball. So, and we have our offices right there. It's a smaller kitchen. The stoves aren't that new. You can't fit many people in there. So I don't know how many people we need to serve or anything else, or when during the day they would have to be there. But it is a widely used building.
Okay, no, because I
Yeah.
just spoke to Graham because this is just an awful lot of money. This has been something that everyone seemed to be well aware of. I just read all the meeting minutes from the DHS and the police building, and they've been aware of it since a year ago. So now it's just coming upon us and putting all this money into Oak Haven. So I just didn't know if we could possibly work as a community and share some services. You have your building. I'd much rather go in and see putting money into your building, possibly using it. And then during the summer, has anyone reached out to the school department to possibly use the Naughty Oak room? They also have a kitchen. Did anyone reach out to Julie Letty over at the housing, Coventry Housing? Do they have any possibly rooms that we could possibly use and share some services? This is just a lot of money we're going to be spending at Oak Haven. If we're going to spend any type of money, why not put it into a building that is widely used like the rec center? I mean, I think I saw in your budget book that you wrote, 5,000 people you service. I mean, between
least.
pre-K and seniors. So I would much rather look at something like that and possibly use those services. And are you the new DHS director?
I am the new DHS.
Hi.
I can speak to that.
Okay.
One of the things that we've come across, first of all,
First of all,
Would you
let me-
introduce
yeah,
yourself?
I was just gonna do that.
I was going to say.
my name's Bob
I was going to
Robillard.
call you
I'm
up, but
the new Director of Human Services.
Welcome.
Day 5.
Aren't you lucky?
Yeah, actually I am. I can speak to a utilization of space.
Right.
One of the things with any change, it's difficult. With seniors, it's even more difficult. Folks want to be together. That's one of the reasons for the center. If we have our meal site separate from other services, it makes very little sense to help people with this transition. The transition piece, I think, is really important because we also service folks with disabilities. So having a consistent environment as much as we can in this multiple move situation. I think it's something that, out of respect for the citizens who have been paying taxes the longest, and for the folks that have the highest level of need, that we need to be together in the services that we provide. So having it disjointed, and I know that in the summer that site at the high school isn't used, but we need to have year-round services, and we need to have cohesive, connected services, and I really think it needs to be co-located as a group. We want to move as a group, we want to come back as a group, and I really feel very strongly about that.
Well, I want to welcome you and congratulate you. I've heard nothing but good. I know you've been working for the town over the years.
24 before this.
I'm
yeah.
sure we've met over
We
the
have.
years,
Yeah,
but,
we have.
you know, I can't remember yesterday. So, again, I know that you come highly recommended and you've got a good following, a good support base. And I know you've been part of this right from the get-go. You've bought into this move to Oak Haven as far as for the year, hopefully not
It's
any
part of the
longer.
process, the long-term process.
Part of the long-term process. It's going to, you know, renovate a building that's ours. It's not going to infringe upon all the many, many kids and activities that the Department of Rec has, and hopefully will increase as our town increases, so that, you know, you don't put the seniors with, I won't say the busyness, but let's put it this way, noise factor, public use, a different mission. It's a different mission, absolutely. I know it's called community center, and it is. It is, but this is unique. And that's where, again, we've had a lot of different meetings, and I know that this is what's been decided is the best place to put the Department of Human Services for the time required. Am I right?
I totally agree with that statement.
Okay, I thought so. And Bob, you've been part of it, and Kevin, you've been all around. You had, you know, you overlooked the whole entire town. Never mind private agencies. That's not a good idea. And I know Cornerstone, which was private, went to OLC. Okay, if it fits their bill, but you're going to have more space where we're going. All right.
It's very functional space. I've heard
We've
gone through, and it makes sense overall as this next step
Good.
for our department.
Well, thank you.
Speaking more questions.
I do have a couple more questions. Do we have any indication from Rouse, the architect, how long DHS will be out of the building? Because I didn't see in any of the meeting minutes. They didn't give an indication how long.
I don't have a full, I mean, one of the things with
So we
building a
could
building-
be looking at possibly just 6 months that they could be out of the building, 6 to 9 months? Is it?
I don't think that is
Well,
is
the
pretty
colonel's
accurate.
coming up,
Yeah.
so I think he may have something to say.
It's,
Whoop, you gotta come up to
yeah,
the,
a good year, right, Colonel?
This 1 year, I believe,
Yeah.
was going to be the
Best
contract.
best
so-
guess. Things
Unless,
fluctuate.
right, if something happened.
Right.
But the
Things
contract's
fluctuate.
going to say 1 year.
At least a year,
so
right?
they're talking 1 year? Rouse is talking 1 year?
Well, that's what they said the max will be
Okay.
for the contract that they want to put out.
Yeah,
to
I'm
bid.
just going by meeting minutes,
Mm-hmm.
so it's, you know, not,
And we factored in 12 to 18 months.
you gotta speak into the,
We factored in 12 to 18 months for a construction period because of the actual construction and then moving in and all the furniture, fixtures, and equipment that had to be installed. We took all the DHS needs that they provided to us when trying to choose a location and not trying to have them disjointed, you know, one room here or whatever. We tried to keep them together, and that's what they had requested, and that's why we came up with this building, our building, that could be utilized for the future also.
Okay, Mr. Waters, you had something else, right?
I'm sorry.
All right.
No, she's got another question, and I've got some myself.
Go
So
ahead.
what is the plan for Oak Haven? So we're gonna go and spend, you know, over $200,000, probably plus more, for a building for 1 year, possibly 15 months. for folks to use. We're going to spend all this money. What are we doing? What is the plan for that building after that? And then what is going to be the upkeep for that building after we do? Because we're going to have additional expenses now. Now that we've spent all this money, what are we planning on doing with that building? And then second of all, here's my other question. What happened with Cornerstone? In the meeting minutes, they were planning on moving in there. They're moving in. Then all of a sudden, they're not moving in. What happened? They did a site tour, and then the next meeting, they're no longer moving in. Why didn't they move into Oak Haven?
I'll let Mr. Waters explain that, but they saw the upgrades that needed to be done to the building in order for it to make it functional. And I spoke to the priest at OLC today, and they're investing some money in OLC to bring it up to those 6 classrooms that they're taking, to bring it up to what they need. It was a decision on their part not to utilize the Oak Haven building. Mr. Waters had the conversations with them, so I'll let him answer to what their reasoning was.
We have somebody from Cornerstone here who would.
Well, no, my mom goes, so I kind of know the gist of that. They didn't take Oak Haven because it would have been too expensive to change.
I can't hear. I don't know. I can't hear her.
So-
She needs to come up. I can't hear her.
All right.
Well, actually,
Well, let me,
the manager
before
can
this
fill in.
becomes,
We-
before this
we
becomes a
don't need-
public
yeah,
forum.
It's not a,
Okay,
it's not
no,
a public
I
hearing.
couldn't- I couldn't hear her.
All right, go
That's-
ahead,
that's
Mr.
fine.
Waters.
What was told to me when Cornerstone walked through Oak Haven, the expense that they would have to invest in the building would have been substantially more than what they would have to invest in. I'm not sure if
That's it.
Lady of Czestochowa is actually providing funds to help Cornerstone.
I don't know that either. I just know that that's the reason.
And I know Steve Horowitz, and Kevin, you were there when you did the tour with him, and it was a business decision.
And I know the needs of
Private.
Cornerstone are different than the
Right.
needs of Human Services. I believe they provide, Bob, if you can help me a little bit.
Sure. They provide services for elders and individuals with disabilities and some memory and Alzheimer's related
Adults with
issues
dementia.
as well. So they have a different security level as well.
Right.
And for they have a higher need population.
Right.
And our Cornerstone, are these all folks from Coventry that we service? And how many do we service?
I can't answer that. I don't know what Cornerstone's numbers look like.
Well, I mean that come to here at Coventry. They're at,
For our,
The Wood
for our
Street?
Human Services and Project Friends.
yeah, Project Friends, I should say, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Not a problem. Our Project Friends numbers, we service 27 adults with developmental disabilities during the day, and also supports in the community in the evening. And that program's been in place since 1990.
Okay, no, we service 27. How many of those 27 are Coventry residents?
I'd have to research that number. I'm really not sure at the
Okay, because
off
I
the
was
top of
just,
my
because
head.
I went on their website to look, and I know that they do have different centers, a couple in Warwick. There's no way that they could help us out and allow those folks from our Project Friends to go over to their other facilities?
I can tell you the other agencies, most of them provide residential services and also have day programs themselves that are full. So our program is one of the only ones in the East Coast that's connected to a municipality and licensed through the state.
Okay. And so if this is state-run then, does the state have to come in and look at these plans for Oak Haven?
The state is aware that we're working towards that, yes. I
Okay.
spoke with them today.
So what happens if they come in and they require even more that we have to do to the building? Is that a possibility?
Actually, the same guidelines would apply to the building that we have presently. So I definitely could get some more information for the.
Is that in here? Because this was just handed to us. I mean, so I haven't been able to look at anything in here. So what is here, are these the guidelines that the state would follow?
Absolutely not. There's nothing in that report that I had just given to you had anything to do with any state mandates. We're currently, we'll be utilizing the gym as that shows you for the Project Friends project, which is in much better shape actually than what they're using right now. So once, and it's a lot bigger, they can actually utilize that space twofold one is actually recreation and actually then for the programs.
The state would have to come in and certify
Right.
that area for
And they would.
project.
Same as the Department of Health would have to come in and look at the kitchen. We haven't gotten to that point. We're just getting to the point now of, even the last item, the trust, we contact the trust about doing an air quality test. Until we get to the point of you folks saying, okay, utilize the funds and start doing the due diligence and getting the pricing for all these items, we haven't gone to that extent until we know which way we're going.
Well, that kind of concerns me. This has been going on since March. I know, hang on a second, Glenn, but I know but we're just starting this process. We could be going up to $500,000 to get into this building. I mean, this is what I'm concerned about. I mean, I just don't know why it wasn't brought to us a year ago. I mean, even Colonel McDonald mentioned it in these notes. They're going to have to be out of the building. He mentioned it a couple of times in here. So everyone seemed to have been aware of this a year ago, and now all of a sudden it's coming before us. I mean, last Monday you were here giving us a building update, and now all of a sudden, 3 days later, it's on an agenda, hey, we got to spend all this money. I'm a little concerned that this price is going to keep going up.
Well, that's kind of disingenuous, Mrs. Bacon. Basically, I was given this task by the town manager about 3 weeks ago about the relocation. I have no horse in this race.
I don't know when any, all I know is, you've been involved in the meetings. Everyone seemed to have known that DHS was going to have to move out of this building. I'm just kind of concerned.
There's two different strategies here. Initially, what was sold to the taxpayers and to the voters earlier on, before the building committee was formed, was that we didn't know what the exact size of the building was going to be. That the DHS section was going to be built first, and then they were going to move into it. So there wouldn't have been a relocation per se, and then the rest of the building. Once the architectural numbers started coming in, and that couldn't happen, and Cornerstone had to leave, that's when the situation came up where it wasn't going to be a phased job, it had to be a total job, and then they had to be relocated.
Yeah, but Cornerstone was leaving for another reason, so.
Well, that's not necessarily, the reason why they had to leave, I'll let Mr. Tebow talk about that, but they left after the fact in the design stage. Since that happened, the building was shrunk down to meet the budget that I'm sure the building committee has indicated they weren't allowed to go over, so they made it to the size.
Mm-hmm.
Once that happened, the relocation of DHS became essential because it can't be a phased project at that point. It had to be a total project.
Oh, I know. Like I said, I read all the meeting minutes, and
So-
it's
And once
been
again,
well
I was tasked with
documented.
aiding in the relocation about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Tebow, do you want to talk about the bond?
Cornerstone could not move into the building for two reasons. One is if any outside entity came in and paid rent, it would make the non-taxable bonds taxable. Secondly, if it was a function that's not normally performed by Human Services, in this case Cornerstone with the adult daycare, I guess is the correct term, even if they didn't pay rent, it's an outside agency or outside function coming in that goes beyond the scope of Human Services, also would violate the non-tax or the tax exempt status of the bonds. So they could not come along.
Okay, Mr. LaBossiere?
Yes.
And then Mr. Waters.
Actually, I have a lot of the same concerns as Mrs. Bacon, and I'm really at a loss at the how a lot of this has changed now. Again, at this project, we know the money came down. All of this, to me, it seems like we've made it so difficult. Because now we've got to do asbestos abatements and all these other things over there. We're redoing Oak Haven. What is the possibility of making that the permanent home for DHS over there? We've got acreage, we've got a number of things. Why are we unable to do that?
The language in the bond indicates that the space, once it's completed, will be co-shared by Human Services and the Police Department. So the language of the bond mandates that those two functions exist in that same footprint.
Okay, is it possible to change that, or we decide not to spend the money on that bond and go back out to another bond to achieve the people's wishes in doing that? I'm just saying that it seems to me it'd be a lot easier to if we have the acreage. How much acreage is it? Is it Oak Haven? How much?
I don't exactly, but we have.
But we've got plenty of acreage there. You're saying that the Oak Haven has more square footage than what the DH is now. It would seem easier to put if we're putting this kind of money into Oak Haven, to take, to go out to rebond that money, to go over to Oak Haven, bulldoze the one that we've got and put up a new police station on that spot. It would seem like it'd be a lot easier to me. And again, my concern is putting $200,000 into a building that, or more, and it's going to be questionable as to what the use of that building is going to be a year from now for a part-time, in other words, for a part-time use. I understand completely, and I agree with not fragmenting the services that the DHS does. I agree with that. But I'm thinking it's like, God, can we think of a way to stay on that property? It seems like a perfect location to me. And now we have we put up a completely functional police station there, and then a completely functional DHS.
Mr. McGee did look at buying a prefabricated building and setting it next to the Public Works Department. And do you want to talk about what you discovered with that?
Yeah, the cost would be about $356,000 to buy it, and it would be about $100,000 a year to lease, not counting hooking up electric, fire service, and plumbing. So we're still going to be investing a couple $100,000 into something that is going to be gone in 18 months or so.
Right.
And the same thing with investing money in other locations that won't be ours.
I understand the whole thing, but again, the concern.
I don't disagree with you, sir, but that's up to DHS.
But like I said, is it possible to get that bond changed, or just say that's it? It didn't come out to the way we wanted to do it, to have the people rebond to $12 million, but to maybe separate the two facilities.
You can't rebond the money. I mean, it's etched in stone, so to speak. The only option would be to walk away from the bond. And I'd have to have a discussion with bond counsel and a financial advisor, and I'm sure that's a heavy lift, but if it's something that, in a direction we ultimately want it to go, I can, at a minimum, talk to bond counsel and the financial advisor just to see what the process would be.
To me, it just seems, like I said, I would think that we'd be able to achieve the results probably with the same money, and then, who knows, maybe even less money. It's got to be a tremendous amount, and again, not being on the building fund, the building committee, I mean, to abate a building with asbestos and you don't know what you're digging on and finding, as opposed to wiping something out and, starting over again. I mean, with the new codes.
There's always the possibility that there's asbestos in other buildings. The Oak Haven building was built in the 50s, I believe, or 60s. Early 60s.
Yep.
Asbestos was used in tiles, just as it is in the Wood Street facility.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've already checked that out, because that's why the school department is over there with their physical plant. And it's doable. And again, whether it's $200,000, $300,000, it's not the $5 million facility that, or whatever gets spent for human services after Rouse gets done building it. It's certainly, you can do anything you want to Oak Haven. I've looked at it for 39 years. It's not a place for Department of Human Services. The one that's been approved by the voters, $12 million, police, what is it, 54% of the building, Colonel? And then I think, is it 46% of the building, human services? End of discussion. 12 million approved going forward. This is a temporary, restricted things. We'll spend the money, the 300,000, 350. We'll have it. We'll have the building. It'll be improved. How we use it as a town is up to the town, future town councils. But I mean, let's not go ahead with blinders. We've been working on this I've been on the building committee as an advisory position, and the 4 members have been going right daily, religiously. And we know the 4 members, and they've been charged with getting it done and getting the best architect and coming in under the $12 million. That's why none of this little extra money is coming out of that bond, because we may need every penny to get it done. Is that not correct, Colonel, from what we've heard?
mean,
I don't know
I
if
would
the
say-
other, my partners know this, but I mean, yeah, good arguments. Get it done, and we can rent the building after we leave it, after
I know
Mr.
there have been
Robillard.
some challenges, but I would say
There's
we
gonna be
continue on down
challenges.
the path we've been on.
That's-
We originally came to the council in 2014 for
Right.
14 million, and the council had no appetite for that. So we're experiencing challenges, but I think we need to stay on.
And
you
the other
know,
thing is, it'd be more expensive to
point.
level that building, correct?
Yeah,
Is
it's
that,
already been. to
that
level
was even
PHS.
discussed.
It was, yeah.
Right, right. And the safety is for the Department of, Human Services. That's why they had to leave, or will have to leave, for the safety
One of the
them.
one of the benefits is the co-location of services.
Right.
Because our social workers and the police officers in this community work daily with each other.
I understand that.
So it makes sense, like, for the workflow.
Yep.
It makes sense for the connected services. And it also makes sense because the taxpayers voted for that.
I think I was going to say, I think that's why it was approved. Thank you for clarifying the issue. Mr. Waters, anything else? I mean, regarding this matter, I know it's all potential funds that we can use.
I don't remember my comments. But
I mean,
no,
I'm regarding the
not-
resolution.
No, the only thing is if the council wishes to act on this resolution tonight.
Right.
To please amend it to include the public facilities impact fees.
Help me on this, because I
So
don't know where you are.
If you're looking on the table that Mr. Tebow provided of funding sources, the public facilities impact fees was not included as part of the resolution because he thought about it after I drafted the resolution and didn't have time to amend it for tonight.
So that is the 31,358?
Correct.
Okay, well, we
So-
could add that, for sure. And I, again, it's something where it needs to be done, the move needs to be made, and this is, again, whether it's 1 year or 18 months, hopefully, the sooner the better, it'll get done at Wood Street, and everybody's back and happy as the campers, and stays under the $12 million, which has been the charge to our building committee people. Mr. Finnegan, Mr. Heatherman,
One other thing is.
Mrs. Letty.
Mr. Finnegan mentioned if we delay going out to bid, it's going to take money out of that project.
Absolutely.
We kick the can and talk more about 6 months down the road. I mean, that's going to just seep money out of this project. And that's why in 2014, I came for 14 saying, really, prices just go up the longer you delay. So.
And
Well,
Mr.
this was supposed
Wazowitz
to-
is
this
the
was
fourth
supposed to
person on the committee. I forget to mention him. I apologize to Mr. W. But those were the four, and he's electrical engineer.
We really want to get the bids out. We should
But it was
add
supposed to
them
go out to the, back in January, February, when I was reading, so we're already getting out late to the
We're delayed,
contractors.
right?
We're already
But
delayed.
we've been working diligently
Oh,
for
I
6, 8
can
months.
see that.
I mean, with touring facilities, and, I mean, the architects have been working diligently as well on every aspect of it, so, we don't want.
There's been no downtime, let's put it that way.
Certainly not.
No, but the council should have been informed a few months ago, because this has been.
We didn't know if it absolutely had to be moved or
The
not.
last meeting, it was really when the architect
So
finally
it wasn't
said
a year ago
But
that
I
we knew.
think it should have been, we should have had, because I read in there, Plan A, Plan B, so there were discussions about that should have come forward, because we are going to be over the 12 million, because right now, with adding this, you're just under 300,000 that now we have to come up with, and if, we could be spending even more money now to move
This
into
is
this
not,
building.
this is,
It's not bond.
You just turned it off, you turned it off.
it's not under the bond amount.
I
All
get
right,
that.
so-
It's not the bond, but what I'm
Exactly,
saying
big
is, we're
difference.
actually,
Big difference. You're going to spend the money to our town building that
And
we're
what
going to have
happens
the
if-
benefits
what-
of it.
what benefits? We
The
don't know.
benefits is that it's corrected and it's going to be ADA,
But it's still going
certified,
to have
and we can.
asbestos. Are you doing asbestos removal in that, Oak Haven?
The only asbestos is in the boiler room. There's no asbestos
So
in any.
no asbestos on the floors,
No
those
asbestos in the
tiles, there are
tiles.
there's no
You've
asbestos.
checked it out, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you've had a contractor come in and they've said there's no asbestos, only in the boiler
We did
room?
not pay to have an asbestos abatement plan done, no, because we didn't have the money for it at the time. If you request us to have an asbestos abatement
Okay,
plan
so-
done, then we can do that, but
So we
Prior
don't
to-
know if those rooms have asbestos.
You can tell-
Asbestos in the current building now.
Yes.
you can
So-
tell by the, you can tell by the size of the tiles and how the tiles are manufactured. The 12 by 12 tiles are not
Those are-
asbestos.
yeah.
It's the
Those
8
are
by 8
asphalt- those are
tiles that are
asphalt tiles.
asbestos.
Okay.
They're not asbestos tiles.
All right, well, again, we have to add, and I know it wasn't added, and I don't know if we add it tonight. Do we have the spirit to
Yeah, he's got-
approve this?
he's got the,
I know the amount.
No, I'm not comfortable approving it without the other two council members.
Okay, that's
doing
okay,
it.
so, all right, and that's what I wanted to know.
yeah.
Can I ask of the council members that are here tonight,
Right.
is there another direction that you'd like to provide us guidance on to look at? I know Councilman Bacon asked us to look at the Naughty Oak Room for dining services, the rec building for Project Friends programming and senior programming.
Or even, Project Friends over, like Julie Letty, she's on the building committee. Did anyone reach out to her about Coventry Housing and having Project Friends over there? I know, I understand, you want to keep everyone together, but we're talking, this is a lot of money for the taxpayers, which this could just be going up. So I just want to make sure, and did we reach out to West Warwick or Warwick? Were they able to help us out at all with this temporary move?
I haven't reached out to West
Yeah.
Warwick at all.
We can do that in the meantime.
Yeah, again, when I think when it's a
just,
temporary
it's-
situation,
Yeah, between now and the next.
Yeah.
I have
is
some-
that, like you said,
Just
the-
to see, we got to work as a community
Yeah.
here. We've really got to go and, possibly think outside the
yeah,
box
well,
on
like I
this
said,
one.
the big
It
pill
was a great
to
idea.
swallow
Yeah.
for me is the fact that we aren't funding and haven't been funding anything for our capital needs in the areas that really need it, but yet we're gonna appropriate $300,000 for a part-time, a short-term solution, without knowing what's going to happen in the future on that property. I mean, if it's going to serve the community the best to spend it and do that, I don't have a problem doing that. I'm trying to weigh the differences and see if there are other options. And again, not being part of the building committee and knowing that certain things I'm sure have been discussed, but even this has been a short-term discussion from what I gather.
It
Where it
has,
was only a
yes.
few weeks ago that this has been there. So I don't think we're beyond scope on that, but
All right, all
I
right.
feel comfortable putting it off till
Okay,
everybody.
sounds
next-
good.
Next Monday would be fine.
That'd be fine. And if we could, Mr. Waters, add the section on the 31,000, Mr. Tebow, into the resolution.
Yes, sir.
And then make the calls, what we got to make between now and Monday. And again, I think the direction is the way it's got to go. And the reason, again, you fix up Oak Haven School, it's been our building. We didn't know what to do with it. Maybe it's going to be a school again. What if it happens to become a school again?
Once again, it would be up to the council and the town manager at the time, but that could be a beautiful community clinic, health clinic.
Absolutely.
It could be office space.
It could be a lot.
Once it's brought up to code, it's then a marketable
Right,
property.
but
You know-
once again, everything, there's an if factor on all of that, and
Yep.
that's my question mark. And
Okay,
again, we can
good.
address all that. I want people to make me understand and make it, I'll be happy to talk with anybody to see all of that, because I certainly want, the people voted to have that facility, and we just need to make sure it's being done, in a manner that's going to be, serve their best interests. So,
We
thank you.
did, you and I were not here, but we
Yep.
did have the police building and the Human Services Committee here last meeting, did you not?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, because I read about it.
Yep.
And again, I've been making most of those meetings, and you've been working diligently, covering all bases, trying to come up with the best plan with the money that's most reasonable, doing it half ourselves, and not taking any of the $12 million bond, which we may need, every penny, to get that building finished. And if this is not, increasing the tax base, that's what we do. And, yeah, put it in writing, let the other two members get here, and if they want to put
Yep.
the bond, send it back, you'll have to find out if they'll take the 12 million back. All right? Which I think would be absurd, but that's just my personal opinion.
Mr. President,
Yes.
one additional thing I'd like to add is that if, again, if Councilman Bacon or Councilman LaBossiere or any of the other council members or members of the public have ideas, please let me know.
Please
You
do.
can email me. I'm sure we're all open to what might be more feasible. I think for us, as staff and as the building committee, you know, as you said, Councilman Bacon, the intent was to begin going out to bid back in January, February. The plans had to go before the planning commission for review. That was, I think, took longer, and I don't know what the status of National Grid and the other, and DEM are with reviewing the plans and responding, but those have to be factored in too as well. So there's always unforeseen holdups and delays and expenses, et
Especially
cetera.
when you're abating a building.
So, again, we'll explore the Naughty Oak Room, we'll explore, and call around and see what kind of program space is
And
available.
possibly the community room. I mean, take a tour, talk to Raina and see. I mean, I just think we have to kind of really brainstorm here. And possibly going forward, maybe we could have the building committee come each month and give us updates. This way we know exactly what's going on, and if there are any hiccups or there are any concerns, just to let us know so we're all aware.
I'll put that before the chair of the building committee to
And after meetings, do you
entertain.
think we could get, I mean, I went and got the meeting minutes, but could they be sent to all council members, all the meeting minutes?
I believe,
We're posted to the.
They're posted,
we
no.
post them all the time.
but, so, yeah,
It's
we
fine, we
can,
can
as
get
soon
them.
as
Oh.
they're prepared, we can send them out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we hammered on that one.
That's
I
good.
guess at this time, unless there's anything else to discuss, I guess we ask for a motion to
Yeah,
adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, you
Yes.
have to table the resolution.
Oh, yeah, well, I already wrote table, but
Right,
you're
motion-
right.
motion to table.
Motion to table the resolution barring a
I-
change and.
I don't believe you have to table it. There's no motion to introduce it, so there's no motion
Yeah,
on
we
the
didn't-
floor.
I'll
Make a motion.
I'll defer to you, but out of abundance of caution, I would have assumed you would have motioned to table it.
I don't think we have to table it
Okay.
because we didn't bring it up as a motion to approve. And I know we have to change it,
Yep.
but that'll be done for next week. Okay? But thank you for the legal advice. You're right there. You've been around a while.
So,
All right, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it.